All right, guys, you already know what this is since you looked at the. I'm coming to terms with the fact that everybody knows what the video is before I do this present me because of the thumbnail. Anyway, weird thought. It's kind of like Schrodinger's cat. Kind of a weird thought experiment, right? When you think about everybody who's watching this right now at this particular moment already knows more or less what the video is about. But anyway, here we go. In this trek into DIY tech, we're going to look at something that I made a long time. Wow, is it a long time ago? 20th anniversary. So this was the 20th anniversary present that I gave the boss. We're going to take a look at this because there's a feature in here that I designed that is from my industrial learning, right? I designed it kind of the same way that it would work in an automation system. But it wound up breaking down in this because obviously this is not the same. So, yeah, 20 here. We're going to go to the bench and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right. So this was I guess it's like a jewelry box. So what I did, 20th anniversary is China, right? So this is white, like, a set of China would be. It's white, and then you have sometimes you have the silver or the gold inlays and all that. But it's supposed to be a China jewelry box. It's a little bit distorted because over the years, PLA, it does its thing. So these light up. I'll show you how that does in a minute. But underneath here, so we have a bunch of LEDs, and this is translucent PLA. Got the LEDs in here. Got 2 blue ones and 4 white ones up front. So that's pretty self-explanatory. But what's in here is a switch, and so the latch that was here, and I'll show you in the CAD program what that looks like. But the latch that was here, that has since broken off, right? And it never quite worked very well. So if you look inside, you can see that the switch, there's a snap switch in there, and what it did was when the latch came down this way, it pressed against the snap switch and kept the LEDs off. So that wound up not working so well, right? Because one, I don't have a way to adjust the height of the switch, right? There was just a couple of screws going through there into the switch, which normally I add some way to adjust the height of the switch, so that's adjustable. But I was so confident in the design that I did not put that in there, and I wound up bending that tab to try to get it to work. It never quite worked right. Also, in hindsight, I would have made this offset so that the switch sat this way and the tip of this actuator was actually in the center of where the tab comes in there. But anyway, PLA, after a while, it got crispy and it snapped off. So what happens? Because the LEDs are constantly on, the batteries would run out in short order. But there you go. That's the way it looked. So when she opened it up, all right. So this is so check this out. This is the back in the days I was using SketchUp. So this is SketchUp Make. Now, of course, we have a good hobbyist level product in SolidWorks. So now I'm using SolidWorks these days. But back in the day, I was using SketchUp Make, and so I did this whole thing. But let me show you the tab. So this is the tab, the aforementioned tab that we're talking about, and that you can see on the one that we have on the bench has broken clear off right at this point here. So that is broken off there. And what we have is very much that piece just missing for us. So anyway, this, as you can see, is the original design. Blue light and all, blue and yellow light included there. So anyway, back to the bench. All right. Whew, took me a while to find that, but today we're gonna reach into the bin. So this is what they call cut tape. So if you have an assembly process that involves machines assembling these, big reel of tape, and these things go through, and the machine peels this off and picks the next one out of the packet using vacuum device and puts it in the circuit. But you can purchase these as cut tape, and what they do is they cut a certain number off that reel and ship it to you. So, but anyway, so these are reed switches, magnetic reed switches. So, just like a regular switch, they will let current pass or not pass. But you can see in there's a little element on this side that sits between the two sections of the switch, and one of them is normally closed and the other one is normally open. So we're going to put a meter on this in a second here so that you can see how this works. But when you apply a magnet, this will move to the other side and make contact. So it'll go through one set of contacts, and then when you apply the magnet, it goes through the other set of contacts. So we're going to use it in its normally closed position, the way that it is for the mechanical switch in this guy. Right? So we're going to replace the mechanical switch in this guy. Look at that. See, I'm already running the batteries down. We're going to use it in place of this mechanical switch. So you see how the switch cuts off when it's closed? We want to replicate that with this reed switch. So we're going to extract this switch, solder this reed switch in there, glue everything back, and hopefully it works the same as this. So we're just going to go ahead and do that process. First, I'm going to show you how that reed switch works, right? We're going to get a meter and stuff and set it up on here. All right, check this out. So you see, so we're on the normally open side. So you can see it's we're connected through the one, and I guess in your orientation, the top one, and then we have the common setup over here. So I'm gonna take this neodymium magnet and I'm gonna move it using this non-ferrous chopstick, and you can see that when I get it close enough, it actuates that switch. Oh! All right. So there you go. Well, I guess I can move it with my finger. I was trying to make it clearer, but you can see there what happens. So that little reed, they call it a reed switch because there's a little reed in there that moves back and forth. So right now it's contacting the bottom contact, and when I push the magnet near, it gets pulled up to the upper contact, completing the circuit through there. All right, so I'm going to try to get a microscope on there so we can see what's actually happening inside that little tube. So here we go. Let's make that attempt. I don't know if the microscope is going to work because it's ancient, and again, there is no budget. So here we go. We're going to try it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to see if it will show up in the turn the meter on again. Here we go. We'll see if it shows up in there. Okay, we'll actuate that a couple times. if we can. Seems like the other side was easier. All right, hopefully that showed up in the microscope. I can't really see too well. All right, so now that we know how that works, the rest is simple, right? We're gonna just open this up. We're gonna extract this switch, which is in there. The switch which is in there. Remove that switch, and we're gonna replace the switch with this. So yeah, we're just not gonna talk through it. We're just gonna go ahead and get that one done, record it, and yeah, maybe I'll narrate in parts where I need to. All right, I was debating on whether I was going to narrate this, but there are a few details that wanted to make clear on here. So I'm just removing the screws here for the snap switch. We'll just pull all these parts out and make it easier to solder. So you'll see when we get to the soldering part, it's just a glass capsule, and the glass is very thin, so we have to be really careful when we handle the reed switch and do the soldering and everything. So you'll see that in a minute. But first, we're gonna go ahead and make some countersinks in the battery holder, and that way I'm gonna switch to flathead screws. The ones that are in there are they sit a bit proud, so they kind of touch the batteries when the batteries are sitting in there. Yeah, we're just gonna cut these off right at the leads. We'll prep those later when we go to solder it. Yeah. And those have been tinned before, so the strands on the ends are real sturdy when we do that. So here, you guys have missed, the camera didn't catch me putting this little metal plate in there. That's just a piece of tin that I cut to that shape, and I just super glued it in here. You'll see the magnet sticks. So the idea behind this is, one, it gives somewhere for the magnet to grab when the cover's back on there, when you push the cover down, and also it changes the lines, the magnetic lines, so that they go through the reed switch. It kind of helps the reed switch work from greater angles. So there you go. That wire's pre-tinned, so I just basically reheated it. The leads on the reed switch are tinned as well, so it's really easy to solder to those. And like I said, this is a very fragile device, so you want to be careful when you solder to it. I'm going to go ahead and use the meter here. And so that'll just help me make sure that I'm soldering to the correct lead. I don't know if you've had it happen before, but especially when using switches with more than one output, I've soldered to the wrong lead before, and then it's, best to get it, measure once or measure twice, cut once. Yeah, so here we go. That's the proper lead. We're gonna solder the other side. So now the common side, I'm going to solder to the positive side of the battery, and this side, this is the normally closed side, so we're gonna solder that right to the LEDs. So in its unactuated state, so without the magnet present, it's gonna leave the LEDs on. That's what we have here. So and now I soldered, you'll see the battery lead is kind of short, so I soldered a wire
to the end of that, and now I'll splice those just to relieve some of the pressure on that switch. And this one gave me a little trouble because, like I said, it was pre-tinned. It still has like a big blob of solder on the end. So, but I wanted to conserve as much of that as possible. We just deal with that with the soldering iron. I'm gonna tin them again. Well, one side was tinned, and the other side I just tinned some. Keeps the wire from fraying, so now as I'm pushing this heat shrink on there, wire stays good. You'll notice I didn't put any shrink on the leads for the switch itself. You'll see why in a bit. That's all going to be covered with adhesive, and again, I didn't want to stress those leads any more than I had to by applying heat to get shrink tubing on there if we didn't actually need it. And we're gonna give it a little test. Always test your connections and everything before you install everything, because then And here we're gonna go. We're gonna go with the magnet here. All right, and it works. All right, we're gonna use a little CA glue here. That's just to hold it down while I make the arrangements to permanently attach it in here. Well, I guess this could be the permanent attachment, but the super glue doesn't. Well, this is super smooth glass, so I'm just gonna have the super glue hold it down temporarily. That's some Kapton tape. It's high temperature tape, but in this case the adhesive is really good, so I'm using it to again, that glass is pretty slick in there, so I'm just using that as a temporary clamp. We're going to use for the permanent bond, we're going to use 2-part epoxy here. This is just some 5-minute. We'll mix that up and we'll see how we apply it. I'm not being too careful here because I don't need this epoxy super clear like you do in some applications where you want the light to show through. So I wasn't too careful about keeping the bubbles from being formed. As you can see, it got really cloudy. It's just me mixing bubbles or mixing air into the mix. Normally I would just fold the 2 parts together, meaning mix it not in a swirling motion, but over and over. All right, there we go. Some time has passed. The epoxy is set up pretty good. It's not completely cured, but it's good enough for us to move to the next step. We'll start doing the assembly now. And we're using those new flathead screws. that I mentioned earlier. Wish I had a different angle for you, but and boom, the battery holder is in. All right, so I did attach the wires at those two tabs for the screws. So I'm being careful not to disturb those. Um, Eventually, that's all going to set up in there, and everything will be good. But right now it's just kind of, or everything, the adhesive will be cured. Um, so I'm just being careful with it now until that happens. All right, putting the hinge screws in. Put the hinge screws in. Now this hinge is shaped so that it stops the cover from folding all the way back. So yeah, I did have to get it into that spot uh, before I put that screw in. That's why I was having such a difficult time. You can see there that it has a detent, and that was just it's a function of the shape that I gave the backside of the hinge when I designed it. So that's as far as it opens, basically. And yeah, that's what holds the the whole thing open, is just friction from the screws being tightened in there. And yeah, let's close it up. All right, give the magnet a little test there. Now, when it's all said and done, I did add a second magnet. So you see that later when we secure the magnet in there. Forgot how bright that thing was, or is now. So I'm just finding the best location for the magnet there. Once I have that visualized, there's the second magnet. So now you can see, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit offset, just because that's where the reed from the reed switch lands. And so I'm just going to mark this off here so that I can use an X-Acto blade here coming up to make a notch in there where the magnets are going to sit. So I'm just cutting out, that portion of tab that's still in there is going to help me make a nice notch in there to set the magnets. All right, we're going to shorten this a little bit because it took quite a while to cut through that. There you go. We're in the future now. So yeah, it took quite a bit to cut that away because I was cutting little by little to make sure I didn't cut away too much and the magnets would fit exactly where I wanted it to fit. So just making a few minor adjustments here, scraping away little by little. This is a good shot because you can see where the little felt feet are on the bottom of this thing. So put 4 little felt feet on there to make it official. All right, that should be the last cut. All right, shape is good. Now everybody's favorite. You will come out of the bottle. There we go. Now I'm just putting enough on there, not too much so that it spills into the bottom from the cover and seals the whole thing shut. Just enough to hold the magnet there. So I'm gonna hold it there for a second so it sets up a little bit, and then we're gonna close it to get the magnets to settle into their final position. So I just have it enough to kind of set up and hold the magnets near the position, and then we'll like I said, we'll close it so that they settle into the final position with the box completely closed, or as close as it can because the top is warped. So I'll put a little of that on there so that we don't have the glue, like I said, just dripping down onto the bottom and gluing the top and the bottom shut. That would be a shame after all this work, I think. All right, so here we go. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. I actually, what I did, it's starting to rain now, so you might hear some extra noise in the background, but I did glue those screws back in there, so even though they're not holding the switch anymore, I put them back in there just to externally it looks like the same box, right? And now they serve a decorative purpose because obviously they're not holding anything. They're just in there. So it was kind of a nice, I chose black screws originally because it gave it that look of, there was some mechanism behind it to lock the box. And so there you go. That's it.
All right, so that was a bit of work, but let's see if it worked out for us. You can see there in the gap that it did. So this box has a little bit of give to it, so you can see it's we'll adjust that a little bit. But there you go. Reed switch. I left it a little bit visible there. So you got the reed switch, and the magnets up top. Good job. All right, so I'm glad you guys were able to, if you made it to the end of the video, as always, I appreciate it, because I know sometimes these videos get long. But now you see how you can use a magnet and a reed switch. Maybe you can use it in one of your upcoming projects. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you in the next video.